I'd like to invite Eric Johnson, who is a partner at Walter and Haverfield, attorneys at law, to talk to us about pitfalls of social media.
Social media has been great for attorneys' businesses, particularly in the labor and employment field. I also do quite a bit of education law. And social media right now is, I would say, literally 2 to 3 times per week. We have a situation with one of our clients, whether on the private side of the organization or on the public sector, who calls and says, we have somebody who did something that they probably shouldn't have done on fill in the blank here, Facebook, LinkedIn, whether they're using Skype inappropriately, any of these social media style, professional media, whatever you want to call it, sites. So what I did was, in a very short period of time, for 20 minutes, kind of gave you the top 10 things that you need to know, and that in turn those that you serve need to know, the businesses that are looking to grow, what you need to know about social networking, professional networking, and media. What is it? Okay, Facebook, LinkedIn are the 2 big ones right now. Facebook on the social side, although Facebook is becoming more of a professionally accepted method of communication as well. Marketing and promotion. So Groupon is huge right now. How many people know Groupon? Okay, how many of your businesses that you work with use Groupon? Okay, Groupon has taken off. Facebook is looking now, Facebook is going to take over the world, basically. They are looking to acquire Groupon. They are right now looking to acquire Skype, so that now when you go into Facebook and you want to click on to talk to a friend, you just click one button, goes to Skype. So Facebook eventually will take over all of our lives, whether you want it to or not. Blogging, Twitter is a big one right now. 140 characters, instantaneous, goes out to everybody. Can get you in a lot of trouble though as well. Podcasting, video casting, things of that nature. Social networking is not just for kids and geeks anymore. Okay, this is a situation where, as you'll see, Facebook now, over 120 million users between 25 and 64. This is going up by the day. It has become, Facebook has become the #1 site in the world. It has taken over Google, okay, just recently in the past few months. LinkedIn, over 80 million professionals, and as you'll see here, an important part, 91% of the fastest growing privately held companies incorporate social media, social networking in some way into their business plan going forward. This is where everybody gets in trouble. Postings don't go anywhere. So when you post things, you have to be very diligent about thinking in advance, as our fathers and mothers told us. Think about what you're going to say before you say it, because there are consequences. That applies in much more really emphasis to putting things out on the web, because I may say I'm walking down the hallway, man, that was really dumb of so-and-so to do that. Well, I put that out on the web. Now there's no tone to it. It can come back and bite me. It also perhaps just went to all of my friends, who then can see through their friends that I put this out there. It can get you in trouble. We've had situations where businesses, a salesman has put out, hey, it was great, I hit my numbers, and then put the numbers and the sales and what the quotas were out on Facebook. Well, some of those things can be trade secrets. You might not want your competitors knowing what your sales quotas are, things of that nature. Salaries of employees that are going on, hey, I just got a raise, now I'm up to. It's amazing what people put out on the internet that anybody, which by the way, Facebook is only about 25% American. 75% of the users on Facebook are not domestically in the US. So when you're thinking about this, this really is worldwide, and it's immediate, and it goes nowhere. Even if you try to take down a post, guess what? Facebook's got it. So if there's any sort of lawsuit, any sort of discrimination, any sort of confidential information that someone has put out there, it's going to be there, and if it gets into a litigation situation, it can always be recovered. Should you have a company-sponsored site? It's an individual decision. I think it's a good thing to do if it's well managed. Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the social professional networking sites are excellent tools, but they also come with no training. So you get a car, you have to go through a driver's license program. You get a site, There's no training. So any of these things where you're putting things out, putting information out there, there's no real, unless you seek it out, and there are starting to be, how to do this the proper way, style. But, anybody who is 13 or declares themselves to be 13 on Facebook can start a Facebook page, which, how many of you know kids who are under 13 that have a Facebook page? Exactly. Referrals on LinkedIn. So as you're looking at referring, you may say, we had a case that we just had to go through court on, which is a very expensive process, as most of you probably know, where there was a salesperson who was terminated for poor performance. Well, that salesperson came back and solicited a recommendation through LinkedIn, and it said, the supervisor says, wonderful person, great attendance, a good salesperson. Well, guess what? That person sues and says, well, how could you terminate me for performance? My supervisor wrote this. And, that's exhibit A, if you will, that gets blown up on big screen in the courtroom for people to see and say, well, all right, what's going on here? Something else is behind this. Bear that in mind. Harassment charges, things of that nature. There is this, I'm going to use cute as an odd verb or an odd adjective here, but textual harassment, if you've heard this term develop. It's kind of corny, but it's absolutely true, is in that right now we get a lot of cases coming into our law firm where it's either email, but more so texts now, Facebook postings that say, I was being harassed by an employee, even if it's outside of work. So you have to make sure that you're regulating and that you talk to your businesses about regulating the employees and what's being said on these sites. As we said here, there are certain, you do have certain ability to monitor posts, and obviously this is going to be strengthened by, typically businesses right now have an acceptable use policy that talks about what not to use email for and things of that nature. You need to make sure that you're rolling in this social media component and that the businesses that you work with are rolling in the social media component to say, we have the right to look at certain things, and A, you shouldn't do these things, and B, if you do, we can take discipline after we go in and see what you're doing, okay? That's really, I'm jumping ahead to slide 10, but the biggest thing that you should talk to your businesses that you work with is making sure you understand there are issues here and getting a policy in place that addresses it from both a business angle as well as monitoring and dealing with your employees. You do have to be very careful about going in and just accessing without making sure that they understand you can do these things. There were a number of businesses that asked applicants to give over their Facebook passwords so that they could go through and search. Probably not a good thing. And this is always one of those, I have a lot of businesses that say, well, should we be proactively going out and looking at these things? Probably not. I think you get into the be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. But when it comes to you, then you're going to have to deal with it, and that's when you're going to have the policy to deal with it. Friending coworkers is a big one. The boss, and do you really want to see what the boss is doing, or does the boss really want to see what you're doing on the weekend, and then does it have an impact back into the workplace? Again, I represent a number of school districts. Teachers or school employees friending kids. We deal a lot with these issues. Here's an important one, especially on the private side with the businesses that you work with. There is this little commission called the Federal Trade Commission that gets a little antagonistic when you are advertising in inappropriate ways. And they came out with last year, in the rise of social media, guidelines that state if you are going to be on social media advertising or even saying, hey, Walter and Haverfield's just a great place, good attorneys, great work product, cost effective, P.S. I work there, you have to disclaim that you are involved with the entity. So there is a and I cut out the visual aids here, but there's a great slide, and if you want to go online and look at it, there was an engineer at Honda who went through this litany of Facebook pages talking about how wonderful the new products are at Honda, and then you see someone else call him out and say, aren't you a product engineer at Honda? And that's a lot of what got a number of companies in trouble, is that they weren't specifically saying, we work here and here's what we think of the product. Okay, so with your businesses, again, they're focusing usually on the larger businesses with this, but they do have, they can come into the smaller businesses as well. Huge misconception. Free speech does not apply in the private sector, okay? Free speech only applies in the public sector. When it comes to if you need to deal with employees or others who are posting to your sites. So you may have a chamber site in which somebody posts and says, you know what, everybody at the chamber doesn't know what they're doing. Not that anybody would do this. Everybody at the chamber is misguided. They don't know what they're doing. You know what, you have much more in the way of rights to regulate that discussion than if, for example, a public school district or a city opens up their Facebook page and says, we're going to allow comments to come on. Then you have to take the good with the bad to a certain extent, unless it's hate speech, unless it's profane, and there are other ways to regulate. But if you and your private businesses that you work with want to start a Facebook page, you have much more in the way of rights to regulate what gets posted or taken down from those sites. This is a huge one right now. The National Labor Relations Board, which, by the way, does not just deal with unions. It deals with all private sector employers. After a certain threshold, you got to have about 10 employees. This is where you're hearing a lot of the buzz right now. There was an ambulance company in Connecticut that really started it, but it's really starting to roll out. When employees are saying things on social media about the company, okay, let me give you two quick examples. My supervisor is a moron. My supervisor doesn't get what he's doing and continues to waste all of our collective time by following principles that he shouldn't follow. Two very different comments, okay? What the National Labor Relations Board will say is that, first one, my supervisor's a moron, is not protected speech. The second one gets a lot closer to, are you taking or making statements that are in the, as the phrase is called, mutual aid and protection of other employees? So even in a non-union setting, there are certain rights, and this is private sector employees, so this is kind of the caveat to no free speech. If they are making statements that are for the mutual aid and protection of others, it can't just be, get into a bunch of nuances here. It can't just be, I'm looking out for me. It has to be, I'm looking out for a group of employees, group 2 or more. So you can have, and you can get yourself in trouble, and a lot of social media policies, even in the largest companies right now, are being struck down or proactively revised because they go too far on this piece and don't allow the employees to talk about certain things that would be along the lines of wages, work conditions, et cetera, out in the public. Okay?